Welcome to the Great Distraction.
What's up, guys? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is sexual orientation and gender identities. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-hosts Joe,
Hey,
Thomas,
aloha,
and Glenn.
How's it going, folks?
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. All right, so this is an odd topic, and a difficult one to discuss, but it came to me because with my recent status change to single, I decided to partake in some of these many online dating websites that are out there today, which there's just being advertised and marketed to death. And yeah, we got to do a whole episode on just those things alone, man. They're wild. They're wild. It's an interesting world. But anyway,
I've been away from them for many years on purpose.
Yeah, it's a frustrating, weird beast to deal with. Anyway, looking through those and learning how to set up your profile and going through the process of setting multiple profiles, I ran across a lot of options and a lot of categories and things you had to select and fill out. And among those was all the available options for sexual orientations and as well as gender identities. And it got me going through these and got me curious just because there was so many of them. Not that I know what mine was, but there was just so many of them that I didn't know and had never heard of. And the more I started, Googling them, weeking them, whatever, the more I started thinking, dang, man, I wonder how many people know, if for nothing else, what's coming down the pipeline as far as the options that are available and the associations that people will, in the near future, if not now, now and in the near future, are selecting for themselves. And if you're out there doing this online dating thing, or if you're meeting people and they tell you these words, I figured, hey, man, I think anybody might be interested if, to know about this stuff, if for nothing else, just for the, wow, I did not know that before. So I put together a list here, and I've shown the guys here. And then this list is, the font's kind of big, but it's a 4-page list. It's 2 pages for each of these. And I figured this is so expansive that, and it was difficult to organize, difficult to find a good approach to. And I figured, I don't think there's any better way than to just start talking about these, the ones we know, and then go off on the more left field ones from there. But I do want to preclude it with we are not intending to make fun of or put anyone down for these types of any of these topics, and we're gonna we're trying to keep it as unbiased as possible. But it is, some of this stuff is very different, and a lot of it was stuff we didn't really expect, and when at least I didn't anyway.
It's a brave new world out there on these dating websites.
Indeed, man. Well, it goes beyond the dating website world too, obviously, right? Because these are people. There are people who are associating themselves with all of these, in the normal world, not just the online dating world. And but you're going to run across it at some point. You might pick up a guy or a girl at a bar, and you hear one of these things, and you're like, wait, what? Or even odders we'll get to. You may even come across a new name for your own self that you're like, wait, there's a different name for what I am. Yep, you know what? There might be, depending on how much you've been keeping up on this stuff. And I found that very interesting too. Like, well, I did not know I was that thing, or I could be classified as that. So we're going to start just going through. We'll start with the sexual orientations that I had run across, and this list was compiled by the options that were listed on dating websites. And I'm not going to say which ones because we're not trying to promote those guys. They're not paying us. And also a couple of websites that I found that talked about this kind of stuff. And just those, basically just three sources was where all this came from, and so I imagine that there's even more out there that I did not find, but this was enough with the three sources.
It got you going.
Man,
we can tell it kind of struck you.
Yeah, it got me. It filled up 4 pages here. I thought that was it was pretty impressive, and just those few sources that I looked into. So, sexual orientations. Everybody's familiar so far, hopefully, with the first two, right? Or maybe the first 3 here. We got your heterosexuals, which is your standard straight individual. I imagine that would be the majority of us in this country, world, whatever. And obviously that's so that's defined as a person who's sexually attracted to the opposite sex. Homosexual would be the opposite of that. As we go through these, there's a lot of them that are very closely related to each other, and I think that some of those definitions, just in and of itself, that there are different names that are very close but not quite the same, is a topic worth discussion just all on its own, because in this time period, it looks like everyone's so hoping to find an individual name to help them find their own identity in whatever it is that they want to associate with. So that kind of opened the doors for a whole bunch of different specifics.
Confusing terms.
Right. Yeah. I've heard somebody bring up that concept in particular, and from what I heard is that they didn't feel anything applied to them, so they were confused about things, and then having that title to get behind made them feel a little bit accepted, and made them realize, oh, there's other people like me who don't fit into the norm.
Yep, absolutely. And just feeling like you're not alone, and you have an association with a larger group when you didn't feel that you associated with any other group, and that's I think that's how this all these different names spawn in different types and subcategories here.
And if you think about it, we've all probably done it in one degree, at one point in our life to some degree. I know when I get into something, I look for forums or other gathering places where I might meet like-minded individuals.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that probably starts for most of us in like junior high. When we hit puberty, we start trying to seek out, an identity and a name for ourselves, and we do it in all different types. What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of clothes do you wear?
Right, yeah.
Where'd you grow up? I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's human nature almost, right? To get in where you fit in.
Where's your tribe?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, all this stuff plays right into it, and I can see why. I just did not realize how expansive it had become, and I thought, hey, maybe the listeners would be interested in that too, because there's a lot here. Okay, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual. That one's kind of obvious too. Sexually attracted to both men and women. That's kind of your combination of the two. And I think most people have been pretty exposed to that from our TV shows and probably know people or whatever. Then it gets a little different. Biromantic. So apparently there can be a separation in a sexual orientation type wherein a person can be romantically attracted to someone, whether it be men or women, but not necessarily sexually attracted. And they're in this further drilled down detail of people trying to find a name for their individual outlook on life.
Their fetish.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say it that way. They want to separate what a romantic attraction is versus a sexual attraction. And
so is this like dinner and a movie, and then you don't have sex?
Yeah. I mean, it gets
candlelit.
That's kind of like being married, Joe.
There you go. So
okay, all right.
And a car payment. Throw a car payment in there
after a long
and a mortgage and some soccer lessons.
After a long marriage,
that's called non-sexual marriage. Is that
actually,
on the list?
Actually, we'll get to that one too. That kind of goes around along that lines too.
I'm monosexual. I'm married and I don't have sex with anybody but myself. I'm not either of those things.
I don't want to jump ahead here, but yes.
You should be careful using the word head right now.
Yeah, those are all options. Heteroflexible. So we have another two. If your association kind of sways both ways with male and female, or homo and heterosexual, there are ways. There is a name for being, and that is to be flexible. And if you are heteroflexible, you are interested in both genders, but you are all kind of tend to sway towards the opposite. If you are homoflexible, you are interested in both genders, but you kind of sway towards the same sex as you. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, okay, well, we got.
How does that really differentiate from bisexual?
Well, that's I mean, that's the thing I keep noticing about this list too. Is like
Yes.
all these different things. Well, I'm attracted to this, but not to this. And yeah, I'm with Glenn. How is that all just not bisexual? I mean,
So, okay, going back to trying to find yourself and a name for yourself, it's to those of us who don't have to deal with these associations for ourselves. We can look at everyone else and just throw it into a classification and like, oh yeah, you're bisexual. However, if you're on the other side, a lot of this has to be looked at as putting yourself into the shoes of these other people, right? If you are in this kind of in-between category and you're like, no, I'm not bisexual because I don't really, that doesn't fit for me. For whatever your reason is, right? I don't know. Maybe, and it could be that we can't understand that reason.
Well, what gave it away for me here in this document for heteroflexible is the terminology mostly straight. So it's just like getting more granular on your preference.
There it is. Granular
Okay.
names for, remember, like Joe,
Everybody's got to feel special, baby.
that's it. Joe said before we started this, everybody has to be their own each individual snowflake. We're
You
all
are special and unique, just just like everybody else.
That's it. And, I mean, yes, yes, and I mean, it's not to make fun of that. It's just many people.
It is kind of poking fun at our culture a little bit. Yeah,
It is. Yeah, we have so our first world problems are so great and have become such a important part of our life that we have to drill down. We can't feel comfortable with just general terms like bisexual. You got to be, you have to find something more specific to just you.
I think this is a kind of points a finger at our culture in general and how
totally.
we're getting so
nitpicky.
and easily offended.
Totally.
I mean,
Yes.
seriously, where did our backbone go?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think our basic survival needs are so far removed that we have so much time on our hands. We can just sit around and ponder, man, what gender identity best suits me?
on a dating website.
I'm sorry.
At
Dating
2:30 in the
website.
morning.
I'm attracted to who I'm attracted to. I don't need a label for that.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. A lot of people do feel that they need
But
a label.
maybe if you were ostracized societally, you might want a label for it.
Okay.
Now-
to make
you
you
know.
feel more part of the
Yeah,
bigger picture,
normal or
culture.
accepted.
Yeah.
Or
Normal's a setting on a dryer, man. there is no normal. We're all weird, mushy, meat-filled.
blood bags.
But if you grew up being ostracized, you might have a different opinion on it.
Okay.
Is all I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
All right. All
Now,
right.
and the other way
Or
out.
unsure of your sexual orientation.
Yeah,
And
or
I think
that-
that's the thing too. I mean, some of these lists, some of them I'm like, well, I'm with you. I think it falls into other things. But you said this earlier, and I think that's something that is hard for a lot of people to understand is what if you were that person? What if you, like Joe said earlier, what if you were in those shoes? I recently had a friend, I told you guys earlier, who I've known him for 35 years, grew up with him, and he, in the last year and a half or so has come out to everybody kind of privately, individually, and said, I just want to be upfront about who I am and how I feel, and I'm not sure what it is. And basically, he's a male who identifies as a
male.
woman,
Okay.
and so he's in that mode. And and through that, he's lost a lot of friends, argue with people, and he did the thing that I hoped he wouldn't do in the argument, because we're all a small group of people. And he said, "Well, I can't believe you just can't see things in my shoes." And I said, and so I kind of contacted him privately. I said I can understand the comment that you made and why you're mad that people aren't easy to understand this, but I said you have to understand that you've made friends all these years as this other person, and that's who these people like.
Yeah.
A lot of them. I mean, we all like you because you're you, but you being a specific person or that was useful in a relationship with people, especially, guys have friends that do other things than them a lot of times because they're doing something, and women do too, that helps their profession or whatever, and they just become friends, and it's helpful. It's how we bond. And so I was like, well, you got to understand that you're asking people to give up that person that they love, and to fall in love with a new person that you're not even sure who that person
meet
is
a
yet.
new person,
Or
right?
meet a new
Start
person.
all over, basically.
Yeah, so it definitely opened my eyes to like trying to look at a lot of these things from like, what if you were that person? And Joe, made a great point about that. Is like, I mean, as much as it seems like snowflaking in a lot of ways, there are a lot of people out there who are really lost. And I think it is, as Glenn was saying, rooted to that. I think it's our society that has gone so crazy nutty in the last 30 or 40 years that has spawned to that. But now this is our norm in society.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to say, I'm monoflexible. when you say, are you a guy or a girl? They're going to ask if we can check monosexual. You can't do that when you're getting your driver's license.
Yeah.
But, so it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I understand, and I'm with people trying to identify themselves, but I think that, some of this wording is just like, are you bisexual and just got a lot of creative activity going on in your writing style? Some of these things seem so over the boat wordy, I guess.
I think on the other side of the same coin, the reality of the situation is all of these options and preferences have always been there. It's what it is to be a human being. There's always natural variations. However, it's only just now in our society starting to become a little bit more socially acceptable to be other than heterosexual.
Correct.
So I think that adds strength and power to the movement, to acceptance, and to progress.
Yeah, let me relate that exact same concept to both race and religion. Remember, and it was in our lifetimes for sure, that it has been a big issue in multiple facets and different ways. What race you select on the check boxes when you're going down through the list. I'm not Pacific Islander. I'm not Hispanic. I'm white other. It's like, wait, what? Do you know how many things are thrown into white other or black African? It's kind of like so a lot of people complained that they didn't have their option on there, and so those options have grown on many things. Many more check boxes for you because of the same idea, right? So another one is religion. Look at how many spin-off religions there are. How many
Pastafarian baby right here.
Yeah.
How many different versions of Christianity are there? Everybody has their own flavor. And going back to what you guys are talking about being ostracized, maybe those people or those separate denominations came about because they got. You guys are a little too weird for our church. You're all Christian, but you guys go create your own church. Next thing you know, you're, I don't know what.
Southern Baptist.
Yeah, or whatever. There's too many of them. But anyway, yeah, what if you're one of those? And so yeah, people have been dealing with this in this way, with many things. This is just
since
now
the start of this country, really.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those, all the religions, right, started breaking off. A lot of them started breaking off from here. And we got new ones that weren't really breakoffs at all, like Mormonism. It's just kind of,
Yeah, differences in preference are so stigmatized in this country. It's absurd, really. Absolutely absurd.
Yep. Yeah, so as we continue down the list here, pansexual was a really interesting one that I read.
I really like the idea of this one. This one's hilarious.
Yeah.
I like it.
Not limited in sexual choice with regard to biological, sex, gender, or gender identity. You're just
You're just like, fuck it, I'll do anything I want.
I will hit it. So what I wonder is, because I've heard of people who have sexual attraction to and bona fide sexual attraction to inanimate objects. Now I've looked at a couple of cars that I've wanted to maybe bone, but
I forgot
I've
about
always
that
wondered about that. Is like, does that fit into pansexual? Can you have sex with a couch? Does that fall under the umbrella?
But in that realm, does that become a fetish, and that's how you get off? Is that what your sexual drive?
The rest of us,
is that what drives it?
But this is an orientation.
What, the car? Does the car drive your sexuality? What do you mean? I'm unclear in your question. Will you clarify?
You were talking about being aroused by something. Mm-hmm. I guess, for lack of a better term, I guess it's like, why are you aroused at something like, oh, that's fucking cool, that's super hot? Are you like, you want to touch it, a physical thing? Because there's a difference there hugely between, like if someone says, oh, well, I'm attracted to both, men and women, that might be because they're attracted to strong, characters. But that doesn't necessarily say that I want to have sex with both of them, I guess that's what I'm going in that direction more. Is that drive that you're like, oh, I've seen a couple of cars, but you're not going to fantasize about how you would mount that car physically.
I might. I might.
But that's what I mean about the fetish.
Look at that tailpipe. Well, you're right. There's a few entry points here. I could lube up here. No, but I think the suffix of that term, sexual, pansexual, I guess that implies sexuality versus romantic. Maybe there's a difference between pansexual and pansromantic.
Yeah, there actually is. I forgot to add that one. I had actually watched a documentary on that where they were where it was about people who were either romantically into or sexually into inanimate objects, and there was a guy who was into a car. And I don't remember what the other ones were, and I think I saw it on YouTube. If you guys want to look
doll.
it up, yeah.
Doll.
The real doll's different, but yeah, that's a whole different story. But at least because that has some human. that has some animate living, association with it, right? Because it's a human doll. It looks like a human, right? As opposed to a doll that looks like, a couch, like
couch.
a chair or
All right,
something.
all right.
Or maybe it's not a doll. It looks like a couch at all. It's actually a couch.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe it's your couch.
So yeah, here it says not limited in sexual choice with regard to biological sex,
Yep.
gender, or gender identity.
Yep.
So
Now, and it
So-
could be that the people who
I think there's sexual activity involved here is what I'm saying.
it could be that the people who fall under that category and are into sexually with inanimate objects don't feel that pansexual is specific enough. They want
No.
something just for them.
Well,
What-
maybe that's because pansexual means a human-to-human relationship.
Now,
No.
would somebody who uses like a sex toy be considered pansexual?
No.
Because
We'll get to that. There's another one for that. We'll get to that one. That's coming down here. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. I know this interesting stuff, right? It opens the doors
it's
for
very interesting,
A
yeah.
lot of topics to talk about here.
It also makes me think about. I heard of. I got educated on what the Folsom Street Fair is in San Francisco, and I had a buddy who went. And this guy is just a really interesting all-around character, anyways. But he went with the intent to find somebody to saran wrap.
I've
He
seen
has
people do that.
intense gratification
Yeah.
with saran wrapping people and things.
Yeah.
And so we were at a bar, and I'm halfway 3 sheets to the wind, and
and
sat
contemplating
and had
being wrapped in.
I sat and had a conversation. It was just so interesting to me that I just had to keep him talking. And what he told me is he met this guy that he wanted to do this with, and so he took him to his apartment, the dude's apartment, and he put him in a chair in the middle of the room, and he saran wrapped him to the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm like, maybe you like leave a couple orifices open so that you can,
No.
And he's like, no, I went around his apartment saran wrapping his stuff and watching his expression. And he did this, and he got off on all of it.
Interesting.
And it was just one of the most interesting sexual conversations, or whatever, preferential conversations I'd ever had in my life. And I just wondered, well, how does this person classify themselves?
Yeah.
How has he grown up? How did where is it nature versus nurture? I mean, where does this all come into play? How does this come about?
That's way complex. how that could
Absurdly
be.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how that would relate to tape.
Tape, right? Yeah, and then, so he wanted to go to the Folsom Street Fair, and what he wanted to do,
that duct
ideally,
tape is so sexy.
ideally was
Duct
to
tape.
saran wrap somebody to a mailbox.
Interesting.
And I was like, wait a minute, why the mailbox? So I had to ask more questions, right? But you know how it's like illegal, a federal offense to tamper with the mail?
He liked that
played
idea.
into it, dude.
He
That
liked
played
that.
into it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so interesting to me. So I wonder if he's pansexual. I don't know, next time I see the guy, I'll have to ask him, is
I
there
wonder
like a
if that-
I think he's saran sexual.
Yeah.
I also wonder if that plays in any way into a dom sort of thing.
I'm sure it did, surely.
because once
yeah.
once you have your person
You have some
tied up,
control
Yeah, he
you
told
have
me he peed
com-
on the individual that was saran wrapped before he left.
every
and that's-
time, or just that one
Just
time.
that one time, he saw an opportunity
So he
and
left
took it.
him
Maybe he's
saran
just an
wrapped.
opportunist. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. Saw an opening and took it.
Or peed on it.
Yeah, or peed on it. Yes.
All right, what's next, man?
Demisexual. Demisexual is a person that does not experience sexual attraction unless they form a strong emotional connection with someone. More commonly seen in, but by no means confined to, romantic relationships. The term demisexual comes from the orientation being halfway between sexual and asexual.
This one just seems a bit absurd to me. It just kind of sounds like, oh, so you're an emotionally intelligent, healthy person. You want to know somebody before you
Now,
put
Or
your
maybe you're
genitals
just,
in
or
them.
maybe you're just a
around them.
little cold around the shoulders.
now
and
that's why
it really takes a lot to like win you over.
That's
again.
why I
don't know.
precluded this
To let you
conversation.
be that close.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to preclude this conversation with when I was going through this, I started finding things that there are terms that may be applied to us, to you as an individual, that you didn't even know somebody had categorized you in. We may be part demisexual. I mean, maybe you don't feel the need to apply a name like that to yourself, but nevertheless, I like to be strongly emotionally attached to somebody that
I
make
just
it.
think that's just natural.
I've
I just
got
think
a-
that's silly.
I'm
Yeah.
curious. Do these
Yeah.
orientations?
Can we vote these out? If
Yeah, let's get rid of that one.
We
That one
cannot.
Well,
they're not ours.
I mean, is that like to classify somebody as demisexual, for instance?
To me, that just
Would they
seemed-
just never want, or do they not have any arousal whatsoever unless they are in some sort of a emotionally or heated situation? I mean, is that a requirement for arousal, or is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Or is
guess
it
it
just
seems
saying
so,
that,
you say
that
that.
is it a preference? You know, I mean,
Depends
I
on
mean,
how demisexual you are, right? I mean, it's
I guess. I mean,
you know, if you're heteroflexible, you know, you
Can't be demisexual too.
if you're
You a demi, bro?
you know, but I mean, everybody's going to have varying degrees of this, right? Because if you're like, we go back, going
so
back to
it's a gradient chart for each of these items, or is it is it a label?
I'm only
I mean,
50%
I'm curious
pansexual.
because if we are putting these labels out there, how do you say that I'm part this, I'm part this, I'm part this? I mean, this one seems pretty exclusive. I mean,
it's along the lines of if I said, Glenn, what nationality are you? Oh, I'm white. Well, maybe you don't like
I would
that.
never
You're like,
say that.
Yeah,
I'm human.
okay. Well, but no, but it's everybody feels comfortable with how specific they want to get with their definition, right? Maybe you want
I'm
to say
Terran.
I'm Terran. Nice. You're not a Zerglin,
Yeah.
Lester.
No, I'm from Earth.
Nerds.
Yes. you know, but like some people want to say, no, I'm Irish and English and whatever. You know, that's what I am. You know, they don't want to say I'm white.
If I want, that would be an absurd list for me, man. I'd have to count like
Yeah, I know, but
I know.
and
20 different countries.
and you're comfortable with just kind of bundling it all into one
mud.
term, right? Mud. I'm a mutt.
See, I think some of these are just like a little bit overboard. I feel like some of them are like a little bit snowflakey. And to back up my argument, it's this transracial thing that's that's talked about or that's surfacing now. People, or I think it's transracial. Yeah, people have some white girl who thinks she's black and who acts black and
Oh, gosh.
and they want to be identified as black. And it's like I get that you.
Transracial. Wow.
Yeah, no, this is real. This is real shit. It's like on
I believe it. I just
TV
haven't heard of
shows,
it.
like on Maury Povich nowadays.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Oh, yeah.
so
How
I
about
get
that?
that you,
how
I
much
get
of
that you
this is just a
identify-
plea for attention?
Right. I get that you identify with it and like the culture. I mean, I love Asian cuisine, art, women. It's all it's a very attractive culture, but I don't walk around telling people I identify as Japanese. I mean,
Yeah.
Turning Japanese. I think he's turning Japanese.
I think he might be.
So there's another demi.
Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
There's another demi. How about demi-romantic? Does not experience romantic attraction unless they have already formed a strong emotional bond
See,
with the
that-
person.
that-
So now you have 3 layers. You have to be
Okay.
demi-romantic before you can be demisexual. You must romantic,
So that means
emotional,
you're
romantic.
dating as a moral human. That's what I would
Yes.
call that.
Maybe that ideology just becomes so few and far between nowadays that it has to have a label.
Yeah.
Instead of like Tinder hookup culture, like
Oh,
I'd hit
that's
that,
true.
I'd hit
Swipe
that,
culture.
I'd hit
Yeah.
that.
Swipe
Swipe culture.
That's what it is, swipe culture.
Swipe
Or
culture.
swipe dating, they call it.
Or STD, I think it's the.
Right.
I should
Nobody wants to
dude,
use
I wanna
that
start
acronym,
the
buddy.
STD dating site. You might get something, but nobody cares.
You can just see if your diseases match up. And you're like, yeah, I'd hit that.
Actually, stuff like that already exists, guys. And an interesting story. So a friend of mine has a good friend that I never met, and he wouldn't tell me who the guy was anyway.
yeah,
if
we
I did.
know.
Yeah, you know how
A good friend of mine.
A friend
Yeah,
of a
not
friend,
me.
right? Yeah. A friend of a friend.
That was totally not me,
Right.
guys.
So
Go on, we're listening.
He's telling me about his buddy that was kind of a nerd guy, but was fairly successful in life, but never really met that many girls. One of the girls he met, he hooked up with and got herpes. And after the herp. After he got herpes, he found a couple of back then they were like group. I don't know. They must have been some sort of like support groups or something because
Chat rooms.
because that was about all there was back then. There was no like meetup groups. There was no Facebook. There was no social media when I heard this story. Right, it was quite a while ago. Anyway, and he said, "Dude, that guy hooked up with better, hotter chicks than he ever got before he got the STD because of these
Oh, I
support
believe it.
groups." And these girls felt like the good ones, right, that would tell you they have an STD before they you guys do stuff together or whatever. He found really. They had no other, not that they had no other option, just your pool got a whole lot smaller. Mm-hmm. And you start interacting with people, and anybody can get that stuff. I mean, you can be a supermodel.
Especially hot girls.
Plenty of hot
They
girls
can
with
definitely get
herpes.
it. 'Cause
I mean, because you're constantly being
you
hit on all the
you
time.
have 400,000 sperm being thrown at you every moment.
You just walk down the street,
Pretty
hit you in
much.
the head.
I would, I mean, I feel for girls. I especially feel for girls in that kind of to get that kind of attention. Because I don't like people. I don't like when I'm walking through and doing. I almost don't want anybody to communicate with me, talk to me, identify me.
Yep.
Anything. I'm like, and
when we get into the online dating
would,
episode, it's insane because I've done some social experimentation with that and creating female profile accounts, and it's just even from varying degrees.
Were you trying to fit into one of these lists?
I was trying to find myself, man.
Only on the weekends.
I'm thinking flexible is definitely in your category description.
Something flexible. All right, so asexual, without sexual feelings or associations. Now, I can understand that one. And I'll say this. That's a pretty normal one. And I'll say this. I think that anybody who has gone through a relationship and been dumped or broke up in any sort of weird situation goes through a phase
of asexual, absolutely, because they just hate the world and nothing is going to fit that moment. You know what I mean? And I think that again goes back to this other part of the list we were talking about before. Does that really need to be asexual just means, you're not really interested in having
is it
sex.
Somebody that has never had.
Well, that's a virgin.
Right.
That's no, because if it's permanent versus temporary, the permanent is an actual orientation that you would select. Like, I'm sorry, I've never had sexual, attraction to anyone. I don't think about that or care about it.
That doesn't necessarily mean they're virgin. Maybe they've tried it before and they're just like, well, this is messy.
Or maybe
I don't like it.
Maybe you're a eunuch.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure eunuchs were
then you'd
content.
probably be a virgin at that point. Then
Yeah, probably, because especially if you're doing from like young like that or whatever, or brought up in that. Yeah. Sapiosexual or sapiosexual. Sorry,
that's the proper nomenclature.
There you go. Finding intelligence sexually attractive or arousing.
Again,
another.
Do we need this one?
Right.
Another. Now, some people.
So you're
find
smart and you're attracted to smart.
The way I've seen. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, maybe you're not smart and you're attracted to smart.
Oh.
However, the way I've seen.
Dumb to figure that one out.
The way I've seen this referenced online and in dating websites when I've seen it come up is that it is it is their most attractive and only attractive that they're attracted to feature. So it's like, I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what you look like. I don't care about anything. We have to sit down and talk for a long time, have good conversation.
But I think that goes back to earlier in my statement of, so you date morally. You want to actually have a good relationship with somebody, so you're just screwing around, and you want to find somebody that's funny, smart,
and
intellectual.
They can match you on an intellectual level.
Yeah, you can have conversation with, you can chill with, whatever.
And dude, I've been on plenty of dates that it's like, you're stupid, I'm done.
Right? That would be like anti-sapiosexual?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, if there's nothing in between your ears.
Yeah, so it's a much.
There's nothing to talk to.
At what point
when it's just two ears floating, there's nothing to talk to.
Maybe too, these are a bit like, can be used a bit like training wheels for some people.
Sure.
Because if they're dating and they just cannot figure out what's good for them or what they want in a person, well, hey, here's something to think about. Oh, wow, maybe I only want intelligent people involved.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that one can be looked at as kind of like Thomas keeps going back to the morally dating, right? But now I have to ask, okay, so if you find one aspect about a person and that's the most important part of what you find attractive, it's their intelligence. There you go. So if you have a guy who says, I only want a girl with huge boobs.
Dude, where's that? Where's the huge boobs, huge butt?
But now he's a jerk because he looks at it that way. But somebody who comes in and says, I only want somebody who's emotionally in tune. What the hell is that? How's that any different? It's still picking one aspect of a person.
There's nothing wrong with knowing what you want in life.
Yeah, right. And I guess people could argue, well, that's wanting somebody who has certain body features or whatever.
How's that any different than wanting somebody who has certain brain features?
I totally agree, but I mean, maybe people could argue the fact that that's materialistic because it's based on looks or something. That argument is.
I'm kind of thinking it's the same thing, but I see. That's how society. What you're describing is how society
and that's how we.
Which is silly.
And that's how we deem things are bad or good or what this person's not.
And often that's why I keep coming back to the same full circle that there is no good, right, bad, wrong. It all balances out somehow.
I like the statement earlier, Glenn. We're just neutral is just an option on the washer.
Oh yeah,
normal is
a setting on the dryer.
I love
it. Setting on the dryer. Yeah. Okay, so earlier we were talking about this one before we got to it. Autosexual. Autosexual is someone who prefers
I think
to have
that's Joe's car thing.
no, not quite. I have to look that one up because that one there was a name for that in that
it
documentary.
means you're really into Jill.
Sexual.
Yeah, it's Jill. Yeah, that's
what?
it.
Really into Jill. Jill.
For the listeners, you can hold your hand up, a specific your left hand. Look at your open palm, and it looks like a JILL. That's your girlfriend. Yeah. So
Mine
someone
looks like a turkey.
Are you saying you like birds?
No, I'm saying, you know,
prefer
when you're a kid,
Avarian
you
women?
drew your hand on there. And
Dude,
you
Avarian
made a
sexual.
turkey.
Avarian women, yes. Someone. Okay, so autosexual, someone who prefers to have sex with themselves over having sex with others. So you just straight up like.
I'm my own best company. Everybody else sucks.
That's it, dude. Like nobody can do it like I can do it.
Man, that doesn't seem that bad. Like, how much easier would your life be? How much less stress and anxiety and headache and heartache would you save yourself?
Every time you go out, you would get lucky.
Right? 100% success rate. And if not, then you've got some serious problems.
I'm always getting laid tonight when I'm taking my date home.
Shit.
She even holds my beer for me. Okay. Now we're going into the
Fetishes.
No, not yet. There might be some of those. There's one that came up here. There's a couple of the ones that they just kind of throw a in front of, and I'm like, oh,
Asexual.
Aromantic. People who don't feel any type of romantic attraction at all. However, they can still feel sexual attraction. Okay. I don't know exactly, for me, I don't know how I could separate being romantically attracted to somebody versus sexually, because to me, they feel like they go hand in hand.
I can explain this to you in one phrase.
All right.
Cheerleaders and football players.
Frat guy, bro.
So you're saying just...
I think there's a lot of people who are very attractive who have nothing to offer in a conversation.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
And those people are dating.
So going back to what Glenn said, you meet the brainless chick and you're like, dude, you're really, really hot, but...
I'll deal with it for a couple of months.
To have sex with you, but I don't want any romantic interest in you. I don't want a relationship with you.
That's...
Is that along those lines?
I would disagree.
Okay.
I feel like that's more of a choice or taking advantage of a situation.
Okay.
But to not have, the person that takes Airhead to bed, that could be a fun night.
Yeah.
But they're not going to keep that unless they're just holding on to the side for friends with benefits or whatever.
Yeah.
But that person could still find somebody that they do have feelings for. In this, I believe it references
somebody who can't.
Right.
You're right. I got you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, for me, when I first read that, I thought of like, I've got lots of guy friends who aren't the greatest conversation. They're cool guys. They're kind of bros. They're in shape. They're active. They're fun. Not a lot to say. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people out there, and there's probably a lot of people who don't really like the romanticness of things, the sappiness of things. Think about how people were 100 years ago. They're pretty rough and gruff. I don't know how romantic a lot of people might have been. Crossing the continental divide.
Yeah.
But I think I think I can see that as just kind of a personality trait. I don't know if that is a variable to use as your sexual identity.
Orientation, right?
Or orientation.
Yeah, we're doing the sexual orientations. Yeah, because it's really easy to cross that line between the gender identity thing versus sometimes with the sexual orientation thing. Oh, yeah. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's that one's going to have to stay up in the air. Okay, so these two, and I'm kind of at a loss how to pronounce these. Gyne romantic. The only thing I can think of is that has anything to do with the same sub-root word of like gynecology. Is that what that? Because it seems that romantic attraction to female identified people, regardless of one's gender. So if you were a guy,
I can understand that too.
So okay. So this, I guess, this would be. I'm only attracted to
feminine people,
trans that are feminine or feminine people. Female identified. Okay, yeah, you're right, because it doesn't matter what gender or what they are. If they identify as a female, then that would be attracted to you. Yeah. Interesting.
And I think that could, obviously it's a personal choice, but I think probably a lot of gay men that are attracted to other men that are sort of like feminine in the same way. Like I've got lots of gay friends that are, they're really, stark differences between their personalities, but like, I can just see that as being, I don't think it could even remotely qualify as a sexual orientation.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
total preference. It's what you're attracted to.
true, but these are options. So and when you start seeing them pushed out in mass media, things that hit the mass media, like large dating websites, for example. I mean, there's probably going to be others. How long before social media starts allowing you to select these things? And I did not. That's a good thing. That's a good point. I did not look up Facebook because Facebook lets you choose male or female, right? I didn't pull up my account and see, well, what other genders do I have as an option? So
I think they are. So same with sexuality.
Okay,
Sexual
I
preference.
did. So
Are we
I think
getting
they are for
into
sure.
the gender conversation?
Well, but these, so as granular as you feel as these options are, the more they are pushed out wider and wider to other, to these large mass media type things, you're going to start hearing about them. And now people are like, well, that's an option? Cool, I'm going to pick that one. Whether or not it's a granular option.
I think if it's on a dating website, I think what this is almost a way of doing like a human, coding of how to meet people. Like if we all had to answer 100 questions and whichever ones we got wrong and how many of them got wrong was how we were paired up with somebody else. Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes I feel like these things are like that. It's like more options to try to help tie people together because you're talking about, oh, well, you like music. What kind of music do you like? Oh, I like this kind of music. Oh, so now it's got to be a certain gender. And you can take that, even every topic we have, you can take it to the rabbit hole of like picking it apart and making a bazillion little subcategories and subcultures out of it.
Yeah, and you're probably right, except the particular dating website I pulled this off of doesn't try to match you up based on those things,
like a rhythm, like an algorithm or something like that.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
algorithm.
take into your account your unless you filter. Now it's an option for a filter to say I don't want to talk to these, I don't want to see these people, but it's not looking oh, this person's sexual orientation is this person's sexual orientation. Check this out. It's just a filtering option, and it's an option that you can select for your profile as your own self-identity. But maybe other websites do that. I don't know. That does seem like something that should be looked at, right? As far as finding a potential match for you, and maybe that's probably why they include it, because they want to know, if you, oh wow, look at that girl, she's really, or that guy, he's really cute, and and I like him, but wait, no, he's I'm sorry, he's autosexual. What the hell is he doing on the website? It's like, wait, dude, you're only playing with yourself. Why are you on the dating website? I don't get that. Somebody to watch.
He just likes having friends.
Yeah, or that. And you see that a lot of that too, actually. Not looking to date or married already. Just
networking,
meeting
just trying
people. You see some of that. Okay, gynecophilia. This isn't necessarily an attraction towards females. It's just an attraction towards femininity, which is what we just...
Isn't that the same thing?
Yes, that's what... Well, that's how we generalize gyneromantic.
Okay, so gyneromantic specifies a romantic attraction, and the other one I believe is just
could be a sexual attraction. Yeah, you're right. See, you really got to pick apart some of these. This is interesting.
But I don't. Yeah. But again, I don't think this is your gender identity. I think these are
sexual
more
orientation.
But our topic is gender identity.
No, it's both.
Okay, well, that's where I was going.
Yeah, however, I don't think we're going to get to the next one because we're going through time on just the sexual orientation half. Pretty heavy here. All right, let's keep it moving then. Omnisexual. This refers to somebody who feels an equal amount of attraction towards everyone. They don't actually prefer one gender over another.
They're just shiny people, happy people holding hands.
That is interesting, man.
Open playing field, man.
Yeah. Kind of cool, right? In that aspect, boy, it must be nice. It's everybody's an option. And then the last one for the sexual orientation is queer, which is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual and or not cisgender. We'll get into the cisgender here in a minute. And I wanted to add, that is the Q in LGBTQ.
I feel like that omnisexual one is just bisexual. What's the difference there?
Right.
Well,
I'm a little disappointed in this list, and I'll tell you why. With the emergence of all these online games, Second Life and World of Warcraft, where's the sexual attraction just amongst other players of World of Warcraft and Second Life? And I want to call that WoW sexual. I'm going to add that in there.
There are actually people that get quote unquote married over
a lot.
Yeah, people who start relationships, genuine relationships.
I have two coworkers that are now married based on meeting their spouse on
Second
WoW.
Life, baby.
No, well, this was World of Warcraft, but And they still game. They live together.
Oh, wow,
and
sexual.
they still, yes.
I'm a wow section.
They still game together, and they're I mean, but it does. I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter how you meet, your significant other. I mean,
Sure.
obviously it doesn't. But yeah, and with so many people playing these and living in some of these alternate realities that we like Second Life, which is crazily literally an alternate reality. Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't know. It's better than sit in your bedroom by yourself forever if that's all you've been doing. It's kind of they get in their clans and their groups that they hang out with every day, and like, dude, I don't care how you meet your people, just that you're happy and you meet them and it's all good, right?
It's all about that raid night, man.
Exactly, dude. Or you get some of those raids and you got to get like 30, 40 people involved. You're like, what the heck, dude? That's a lot. Well, you start hanging out with those people, and it's no different than going bowling. And like, these are my regular bowling buddies, like maybe you don't know anything about them. They just show up and they throw the ball down the lane, and or whatever, a meetup group that you regularly go to, or who knows.
Raid night, the new date night.
That's it. It is for many people, man. Okay, so that kind of concludes the sexual orientation category. I mean, I by no means mean that's a conclusive list. I mean, there's ones I missed as we were sat
I'm
there
sure there's
talking
1,000
about.
more.
There's a lot more, but I mean, as it is, we're already running through our time. This episode's going to go long or get broken into two, one or the other. Let's go into the gender identities, and a few of these we can kind of blow through because they're going to be a lot like what we were talking about. Some of the sexual orientation ones actually, from lists I found, were duplicated as gender identities, so that your sexual preference and therefore defined orientation also tied into how you defined yourself as your gender. I mean, it's kind of that got really confusing, so I tried to eliminate those duplicates in this. But right off the bat, like again, referencing what I had precluded to in the beginning, cisgender. It is a term for people whose gender identities matches the sex that they were assigned at birth. I want to kind of hold that there because that means that we all are cis males, and this is CIS for those who can't see this list in front of us. So we are all cis males because we all identify, as far as I know, we all identify as males, and we're born.
We're all born.
Yeah, we're all born male.
Okay.
So I mean that all of a sudden you have a name, a category that you now fit in, a stereotype, whatever you want to call it. Well, actually, no, it's a category that you didn't even know you had. Now you have it now, And as Joe had said earlier, these are not new words. These have been around a long time. They're just taking precedence and gaining popularity because they become important in society today. It also goes on to say cisgender may also be defined as those who have a gender identity or perform a gender role society considers appropriate for one's sex. And it is also listed as the opposite term to transgender. Okay. Gender fluid, denoting or relating to a person who does not identify themselves as having a fixed gender.
This is where I hit my head against a wall.
Weird. I don't know.
Because you either have a penis or a vagina, or you have a combination of both.
But remember, this is identity.
Condition.
This is the mental, psychological,
not physical parts.
Not physical parts. Psychologically, how do you associate yourself? I mean, and it's no different than what Thomas was saying earlier about
about my friend.
That too, or like. I mean, we've all had gay friends that were, and then you can always tell, like, there's usually there's some that are way more feminine and some associate way more with the masculine side. And I mean, so that's kind of, it's, they have a preference, but they also within their preference have an identity in their head of how they feel about themselves and what role they play with their partner, or with their life. Right. So it's not the parts you have. It's totally in your head psychologically, I want to say. It's not like you made it up. It's in your head. It's not the
by
parts.
That point, you did make it up because all we really have is what our brain generates. It's a perception of our reality. So everything is our own fairy tale
to a degree. Yeah. Now that's getting even larger out of it. But yeah, that one's difficult to quantify. Even that's almost too impossible to quantify. But okay, yes. All right, questioning is another gender identity. The questioning one's gender, sexual identity, sexual orientation, or all three is a process of exploration by people who may be unsure, still exploring or concerned. I have seen this many times on the dating websites, questioning. Just they don't know what gender they want to be yet. They haven't decided. They're still exploring. If you're in the in-between, like you were talking about your friend, maybe Maybe he didn't know he was trans in the beginning. He was just like, this doesn't fit. So I got to try a couple of things, maybe you want to try saran wrapping people. Maybe you want to try,
Questioning.
getting with a guy, when we've all seen that. That seems to be societally acceptable here. That's a good example. We've all seen in TV shows and probably know many girls. Who hasn't seen a girl make out with another girl? They usually do it at parties when they're drunk. Oh, it's so funny, or it's an attention getting thing. But a lot of girls that I've talked to, and you see on TV shows too, they've had a fantasy to be with another girl to varying degrees. Maybe not all the way, but make out with a girl, touch her boob, whatever. Maybe that's not as far as to say questioning, but some of those people are probably questioning. Since they haven't had the experience, it's always a question in the back of their mind that they might like that.
I don't know. I've made out with a guy before. But it wasn't never.
Was it a bet, or was it because you were truly curious about it?
Oh, we were playing spin the bottle.
Okay. So I think that would be different. That's different than I really think
you
I
found
might.
him in a nightclub and made
yeah, exactly. You found him in a nightclub
behind Donkey Kong. We're getting it on.
Yeah, nice. And you were truly attracted to that person. You're like, I have to do something with this person because I have to find out if that's really what I'm into, or maybe I like both. Who knows? So that exploration is definitely. So questioning, I think, is definitely an option for gender identity. It's not a permanent gender identity. It shouldn't be a permanent gender identity.
But I can agree with it a lot more than other things because it puts you in a position where you're trying to figure something out.
Yes.
I don't know. Questioning, I think it's a good term. And I think sometimes on these, like a lot of these we've read, I think it's just like a new dictionary term for something we've already thought about. Here's a new word for this.
Yeah. Well, maybe it needed a word. Now it really needs a word today, Yeah. Okay, agender.
We got to have it on the DMV thing.
No, that's too temporary. Agender, denoting or relating to a person who does not identify themselves as having a particular gender.
It's Pat.
Pat would be agender, even though he seemed to know what he was.
Was it a he?
Well, it seemed to know what it was. That's a good point. What was his girlfriend too, right?
Was it a girlfriend? Because I believe it was.
It was
another
It's it.
Agender character.
Yes, they were definitely agender.
Your boyfriend looks like a girlfriend I had last summer.
Yep.
Jeez. Androgynous, partly male and partly female in appearance, of indeterminate sex. Having the same, that is Pat.
I guess that's Pat.
Androgynous is Pat. But now, what worries me about this one is that seems more like how we on the outside would identify. So we see somebody like Pat, and we're like, dude, that's got to be an androgynous person. But how does that person identify? Because even though that person looks like it would be androgynous.
Then you're stereotyping them.
Well, in Japan, it's looking androgynous is a big fad, or at least it was a while back.
Yeah.
Last I researched it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I've seen that
metrosexual.
They look the same.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's a dress or appearance choice rather than
you guys remember
sexual
fashion.
identity.
You guys remember the movie Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Remember how they showed all the people in the crowds, and everybody. It seems to be like some sort of gender fluidity where things cross. How people dress when they dress nice isn't really, it crosses over. I've always thought that was what we were going to end up being in our future too. Is that because we'll look at, for example, one of the most popular things right now, or at least to the best of my knowledge anyway, in trends is skinny jeans for guys.
Why?
As horrible as I feel to admit it, even though there's nothing wrong with it, I feel very odd admitting it. There have been multiple times when I have been like checking out a person from behind who's wearing really tight jeans and is really skinny and has long, like, pretty hair, and only to get in front of it and be, oh, damn, that's like a 17-year-old dude. Because the fashions are crossing.
Revealing, Ben.
Well,
very revealing.
No. Why? Because I like skinny girls.
We're going to have a
With
word
that
for you.
progression, if you look, our societal roles are shifting.
Yes.
Not too long ago, we had this very patriarchal organization where well, shit, dude, women didn't have the right to vote
or speak.
Yes.
Yeah. So now expand that out another 100 years. We may be like the Hunger Games people, where it's complete. Why not put fake eyelashes on? Everybody matches everybody, and those styles become cross gender. I think it's already happening, and especially.
Yeah, but I see it more in like the Japanese cultures and stuff like that.
Well,
because they're
now,
more willing
but
to take those.
And haven't they always been ahead of us in everything anyway?
yeah.
Well, then it's coming here, right? I mean, it'll be here soon, I think. I think a lot of this type of stuff that we've been talking about here is opening the doors for that. Not only in just a sexual and gender role, but fashions. Once it opens up in that, it'll open up for fashion as well. As well as preferences, color. Guys wear more pink. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with pink, but you might see it more commonly, right? Bigender, denoting or relating to a person whose sense of personal identity encompasses two genders. Oh my goodness. So
is that like having multiple personalities in your head that have a different assignment, so that when one is riding the control seat?
Is this like the psychological version of hermaphrodite? Only psychological? I don't know. That's interesting. You can be both genders in your head, I guess.
I have no words right now.
It sounds really confusing. Sounds like a pain in the ass.
What's the sexual fantasies like in that? I mean, right? That's kind of, wow. What role do you play?
An autosexual role.
I mean, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, could a bigender person be autosexual? Boy, you really could just please yourself. Cool. Genderqueer, denoting or relating to a person who does not subscribe to conventional gender distinctions but identifies with neither, both, or a combination of. That's like a kind of a catch-all. A combination of male and female genders. That's just like queer was. Genderqueer would be.
Is that like don't label me?
Maybe, or you just I'm everything and nothing all at the same time.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. There is no gender. Okay, now we get into some of the more interesting ones here. Intersex. This is a term that is coined by apparently the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. These are people who are born with any of several variations in sexual characteristics, including chromosomes, gonads, sexual hormones, or genitals that, according to them, do not fit the typical definitions for male or... Oh, nice, man. Nice. We got a beer spilt here. Party foul. Oh, jeez.
Just jumped right out of my hand.
You just poured that on your paper, man.
Oh, man. Joe's done with it. Oh, knock it off. So this is a term that was specifically assigned by obviously some government entity. That's where we left off. Do not fit the typical definitions for male or female bodies. So I don't know. Jeez. Did you drop your pen in the beer bottle?
There's this giant watery beer mess going on.
How did the pen go into the beer bottle? I'm sad I missed that.
He was trying to stop.
Keep it rolling. Let's go.
Nothing to see here.
Yep.
Right. Well, you messed that one all up, man. Intersex. We're skipping that. We're going to Pangender now. This reminds me of Pangea. Around here, we have an awesome place called Pangea Cafe that has an amazing burger there. And it's making me hungry thinking about the Pangea burger. But we're talking about pangender. It is a non-binary gender defined as being more than one gender. A pangender person may consider themselves a member of all genders.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
I like that terminology.
The prefix
Pangea.
Yes.
Pangender.
The prefix pan is Greek and means all. Pangender is a kind of third gender, much like bigender, trigender, and genderqueer. Yes.
I am all of them.
Omnipotent gender. Where was omnigender?
I think there was one on there.
That was omnisexual, right?
Omnisexual.
Yeah. Okay, so these two I found kind of interesting. Going along the whole transgender thing that is now a category that has now become extremely popular these days, in society. It makes sense that there would be two, trans feminine and trans masculine, that would be used to lean a person or identify a person who leans one way or the other. And I'll read the trans feminine is a term used to describe transgender people who were assigned male at birth but identify with femininity to a greater extent than masculinity. This can include trans women and demigirls. Trans masculine is the exact same thing but an opposite. The term used to describe transgender people who were assigned female at birth, but identify with masculinity to a greater extent with femininity. Now, this was one of the drill-down granular terms that I felt was one of the more important ones to have been defined. Because if you are trans, what you now identify with versus what you were born with, I think is something important to.
I think these are completely valid terminology, and of knowing people that fit both of these categories. Absolutely.
Yeah, because if you just tell somebody I'm trans, well, okay, what state in that are you? What state? What are you now? What do you identify with? Because they can really look either way. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have looked up some or know any of the very famous transgender people, but dude, you wouldn't know. You would not know. I mean, not to the point where, and if they're post-op, you might not even know to the point where you've slept with them. I mean, that's how crazy science has gotten, and the technology and medicine has taken it.
We're getting good at making people
like crazy well. I mean, there's been runway models that were guys before.
I think they're robots, actually.
They're fembots, dude.
Fembots.
From Machine Gun Jubblies.
Machine catwalk.
Yeah. Okay. So that was one aspect that I thought those two really did need to be defined, and they were good ones to have out there. This last one that I have on here, and again, by no means a complete list here, but I wanted to include this one because I thought this was very interesting too. Not only do we have granular options that are out there in the sense of how you kind of more psychologically think or which way you lean, this way or that, and you wanted your own specific term that was a subcategory of another term to define just your little snowflake of existence. We also have ones that are religious and culture based. I found two in particular, and I didn't write down the other one. It was a East Indian, I think it was Hajra. Well, I can't remember. I didn't write it down. But this one here is called Two-Spirit. And I'll give you the definition, but I don't think it really actually covers the definition adequately. So I'll kind of give my take, which probably isn't correct. But anyway, occasionally two-spirited is a modern pan-Indian umbrella term used by some indigenous North Americans to describe certain peoples in their communities who fulfill a traditional third gender or gender variant role in their cultures. And I tried reading more about online to figure out what exactly this specifically was, and the best that I could deduce from people kind of defending it, from other people attacking them in some of these forums, was that these people have some sort of a cross-gender identity that they associate with a built-in part of their specific cultural beliefs. Like a mix of the two, like this multi-gender thing or this third gender option could only exist with the combination of our religious beliefs or our deep cultural or connection to this something. So I don't know. It was very difficult to explain that. You guys are welcome to look it up on your own if you like. Two-Spirit is what it's called. But and there, like I said, there was an East Indian one as well. I could not really figure that one out. But other than that, like association with your culture, a deep association with your culture, which what I thought was
interesting concept.
Yeah, it's like to combine one's self-gender identity with where you come from. Like you would think those two things would have nothing to do together, but
I think if you're in more of a tribal setting,
that's what I was kind of
Indian
thinking.
Kind of setting that there's. Yeah, I could kind of see that, and
they feel so separated from the rest of society anyway, and they don't feel like that. Maybe they don't feel like they belong with anything else, so they don't want to belong with this sexual gender identity either. That's kind of what I was along the lines as I was.
I think that's an asexual person,
yeah,
who fulfills a certain need in a tribe, or in their small community, or their family, or whatever.
Maybe. I like I said, I couldn't really figure it out. I wanted to do some more reading on it. I ran out of time when I was doing my research for this.
Let us know what you kick back.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do a kickback later on that one if we come back to it. Well, guys, we've gone over, unless anybody else thought of any new ones. As if we needed to expand that list.
Oh, we could talk on and on, I'm sure. We
really could. There's a lot that comes out of this, man, and then how you tie it to our society in general and where we are in this country and in our own culture, and especially when you consider that maybe this is really just a first world problem to have to worry about what your gender identity is, and I don't know that you have the luxury. To even have that say, or that anyone cares, or that anyone believes you. Yeah, well, there it is. All right, everyone. Until next time, thank you. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.